Ooh, got to bring in Fox NBA analyst Slick Ric Bucher. But Acho, who's to blame for Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors?
Y'all, this one's simple. Let's not make it complicated. It's Draymond Green. Draymond Green started the fire, and Draymond Green did not put the fire out. And as a result, it is Draymond Green to blame for Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors. Now, it's very easy for Draymond Green and Kevin Durant, who just won a gold medal together, to sit there and blame other gentlemen that are not present and that are not in the room. That's easy as can be. But, Draymond, you were on the court, not Bob Myers. You was the one that got into it with KD. You was on the court, not Steve Kerr. You was the one that got into it with KD. It wasn't those two. So how are they to blame for an issue that you started? You started the fire, Draymond Green, so you should be the one to put the fire out. Again, I understand you and KD were cool before. I understand that you and KD are cool now. But let's not sit here and point the finger at the general manager and the head coach for not putting out a fire that you, Draymond Green, started. Yes, they should have told you to apologize, because while you have and have proven, Draymond Green, to have an incredible basketball intelligence, clearly the emotional intelligence has come into question at times. We know it's come into question 2016 NBA Finals. Technical foul, gets suspended, gone for Game 5, end up losing the series. We know the emotional intelligence has come into question on the court, challenging the greatest basketball player to ever wear a Warriors uniform, not named Steph Curry. So we know that the emotional intelligence can come into question at times. When it does, it's up to a general manager. It's up to a head coach to step in and say, look, Draymond, we need you to apologize, big dog. Mind you, I don't know what they actually said. We're only hearing one side of the story, but it's easily and absolutely Draymond Green's fault that KD left the war.
It's easily and absolutely no one's fault. No one's to blame for this, but I can tell you about how and why this occurred. KD checked the box. KD was in pursuit of something, and he was in pursuit of not only a championship, but he was also in pursuit of what a championship would mean to him. Now, anybody who's ever pursued anything, your imagination takes over. You start thinking what that's going to do to you, whether it's that new car, that new house, that new relationship, whatever it is. And then fantasy becomes reality. So you check that box. And then after that, it just becomes about experience. Let's talk about this experience. Because when KD was done with them, they gave him the cover, the theater, the moment where Draymond's yelling at him that he needed to depart. Y'all really think that KD is leaving the dynasty with the Warriors because of a loss to the Clippers in November and Draymond yelled at me? Y'all silly. It ain't about that. Oh, you really think it's about because Bob Myers told Draymond to apologize? Apologize? Even if I do apologize, it doesn't matter because what was said was said. So we can't blame Draymond because no athlete I know is leaving that situation just because you yelled at me. And no one is leaving because somebody else tried to tell you to clean it up. What happened was my man KD, if you watch the entire interview, he told you what he really cares about. Peace. He thought the ring was going to make him happy. His old mindset. He got to that place, checked the box, said, yeah, it feels good, but it also comes with its issues. Now, you get into a situation with Draymond, and he said it. He said, the way that they handled it, the way that everyone handled it, I thought that we were going to keep it real. And when they didn't keep it real, he couldn't keep the peace that he was seeking from that same championship, those same rings. So the reason he left, and who you want to blame, it's just the fact that he got to a place where the experience didn't live up to the fantasy. It's just that simple.
You both were so close, so close. Acho, you are right. It was somebody in the room that was having this discussion that is to blame. And Marcellus, you are correct in a sense that no one's really to blame. But if we're going to answer the question, who's to blame? Kevin Durant is to blame for the decision to leave the Golden State Warriors. Because if he really wanted to stay with the Golden State Warriors, if he really saw the potential there, as Draymond did, of them winning another 5 championships, he could have worked this out. Yeah. He didn't need, as the example that he gave of the team coming together and deciding, hey, listen, we need to resolve this, or waiting for Bob Myers and Steve Kerr to handle it in a different way, or Draymond Green, if that's what he wanted to apologize. I mean, Kevin Durant is demonstrating, even in this very interview and in that very cut, about Draymond just wanted to get off it. Please tell me it wasn't me, okay? Could you please, because I'm getting killed, that I'm the reason that you left. And KD just kind of sits back and lets Draymond present everything. And the only thing that he agrees with is that Bob Myers and Steve Kerr didn't handle that particular situation correctly. But he does say elsewhere in the interview, nah, man, I was going for 3, but I knew it had run its course. Like, I had gotten, to Marcellus's point, I'd gotten what I wanted out of this, and I was ready to move on. There were some questions that weren't asked by Draymond in this interview that I would have loved to have known, that would have given us a fuller sense of exactly why Kevin left. And one of them is the relationship with Steph Curry and the fact that he was a 2-time Finals MVP, and yet the perception was always that it was still Steph Curry's team. How much was that a factor in him seeking to go find something that whatever he was seeking was not complete? Yes, he got the rings, but he didn't get the adulation that I think he anticipated that he would get with it. There were still questions about what he had accomplished. So I just look at it, and Kevin Durant is still being reserved about exactly what he wants and what he's asking for and what he's after. He does it in this interview, and I believe that's part of why, whether it's with the Brooklyn Nets or the Golden State Warriors or the Oklahoma City Thunder, KD likes to keep you guessing in terms of exactly where he stands and where you stand with him. And to me, that has as much to do with the Warriors not being able to hold it together as anything else.
Well, you make a good point. And let's bring up this quick aside. If Steph Curry was on the court that day, if he was in the building that day, I don't think any of this happens. And I don't think any of the Draymond and KD beef happens, Slick Rick, because KD was so adamant about getting the ball, which is why Draymond gets upset with KD, because KD gets upset with Draymond. If Steph Curry's on the court, KD wouldn't have been that adamant to get the ball, because there's a point guard who would have had the ball in his hand. So now all of a sudden, there's less beef there. Klay Thompson tries to sit in the middle of the two, but what y'all don't see before that tape, Klay Thompson is not previously sitting in the middle of the two. He hears them barking, he sits down. Iguodala, the savvy vet, he hears them barking, he enters in the middle of the two. But if Steph Curry's present, I don't think any of this happens. Goes back, however, to being Draymond's fault, because what Kevin Durant said was, Draymond, it wasn't necessarily the issue you and I had on the court. It's how they handled it, how the GM, how the team, how the head coach handled it. There would be no it to handle if not for the situation itself. Draymond Green started it. Kevin Durant had an issue with how they handled it. But without Draymond Green starting it, there is no issue to be taken with it. And so it all boils down to Draymond Green. I understand they cool now, they ha-haing, they kiki-keying, it's all good. But if not for that issue, and if the Warriors do end up winning 3 in a row, I'm not convinced that Kevin Durant leaves when an NBA team had not won more than 3 in a row since what, the mid-1960s? I'm not convinced that Kevin Durant could, Marcellus Wiley, say, you know what, let me go back to the Northeast and go ahead and see what's up there, when you could have been the first player in the last 50 years to win 4 in a row.
But to Slick's point, would he have got the proper credit with all that success? We don't know that answer because that wasn't asked as a question. But I do have to disagree with you, big dog. It's not about Draymond Green. Do you see Kevin Durant on that bench giggling? It's not about that. Look, if your friends get divorced, it's not because of the fight you witnessed at Red Lobster. Let me tell you what really happened. It's a lot of stuff going on. I always end with this Wileyism when people tell me they broke up. In relationships that end, you spend half the time breaking up. Think about that. All the relationships you've been in, if it lasted 6 months, 3 of them months were rocky. Let's just be real about that. In this situation, it lasted 3 years. About a year or so. And even KD was talking about after year 1, he said it was different. After year 1, it was different. So it's not the Red Lobster fight we're seeing in there right there against the Clippers. Let me tell you what I think is a parallel to this. This is why so many athletes, and We like to take care of the village. We get drafted, we're 21 years young, and we look around at all those who invested in us, and we want to take care of them. We want to look out for them. We want to make sure they hooked up, right? And you do that so you can really inspire them to make their dreams a reality. That's what you do it for. Now, it can look different for every single person, but you're not just giving them money to burn it. You're giving them money as a motivation to say you can get your dreams and make them a reality like I did mine, right? But then you get to a point, if you've lived long enough and had money long enough, that you thought that that was going to buy them some level of motivation or happiness. And then you realize it's not. Not for all of them, and actually not for most of them. So then you got to get to a place of peace, where sometimes that looks like, hey, that's just money gone. Or sometimes it looks like, I got to cut you off because nothing's changing how you are. The dynamics of that relationship between Steph Curry always being that top dog, even though he's not the best player on that team. The fact that you got somebody barking at you that you love, but you're like, damn, dog, can you chill? We are doing this. I think all of that is going to give us a greater understanding of what's going on at play, more so than just one fight at Red Lobster.
Okay, so to be clear, this was not the it. While I agree, if Draymond doesn't bark, then there is no it. But KD was the one who was unhappy about not getting the ball from Draymond. So it started there. So I have to at least give both of them a piece of that. But there's also, in another part of the interview, Draymond asks KD about why he's not in a committed relationship, why he doesn't have kids. And I'm just going to speak from experience on that. Until I got married, until I had kids, whenever there was a relationship that suddenly went sour or it wasn't working or something went a little sideways, it changed on me, I was ready to dip. There was no reason to stay and try to look to the future and say, let me weigh what I'd be losing if I let this go. Because it was just so easy to let it go and say, there's got to be something better out there. I was wrong about what I thought I had here. But when you're committed, you suddenly, I learned, you know what? Sometimes you got to look at the present and say, is the future worth me fixing this right now? Is it worth me trying to work through whatever issues we have? Because we got some potential down the line worth it. KD has never experienced that. KD has always had the ability to say, yeah, and I respect him. He says, you know, that's a commitment. That's a responsibility that I don't know that I'm ready for, that I'm going to be ready for, I think I'll be ready for down the line. So he wasn't looking at the Warriors and thinking, man, I might not find anything better than this. I need to find my way through this issue with Draymond. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to fix it. I want to fix it. And ultimately, that's the biggest thing that I learned that turned things for me was not to think about what I was going to get out of the relationship, but what I was willing to give to it to make it work. And I just don't know that Kevin Durant has experienced that in his life. And maybe if he had, he would have looked at this Warrior situation a little bit different. Because I don't believe whether it's Brooklyn or any place else, he's ever going to find anything that was as perfectly built for them to, if it's winning championships, to do exactly what he was after.
Man, that was the realest take ever. I don't know if it was real for KD as much because there are some super single guys who are committed. Where's Acho? He's committed to me, right? You're committed to the show. You're committed to your work. But at the same time, boy, you hit me where it hurts. That was a heartfelt take. Here's my one guess, because I don't like to get too ahead of my skis. I don't know what really went down. But I do know, looking at the behavior of these individuals, kind of makes me want to read these tea leaves. I think KD, when he got to the Warriors, after they all went, the Hampton 5, they lost their 73-win championship opportunity. And he's like, okay, I'm coming in, and this is going to be a clean slate. Not knowing that the equity of Steph Curry was so grand that no matter what you do, KD, no matter what their shortcomings were the year before you, it's still going to be Steph getting all the love. And I think KD made a deal with himself. Like, all right, the world thinks this is Steph's team, but everybody here know this is my team. I'm the dude. Not only am I playing offense, better than Steph. But defense, because we don't let half our dudes go just to get me, and I'm the best defender. Okay, no problem. The world doesn't know, but y'all get it. Y'all my boys. And then he gets out there in November against the Clippers, and Steph ain't there. And Draymond burst his bubble. Draymond not giving him the ball, not giving him the proper respect, made him think, wait a minute, I thought that y'all already knew. Now, I know they don't know because they don't know basketball. They don't know our team. But y'all in on the act too? And I think that made KD start giggling like, oh, I'm going to show y'all who's important.
But I think, Sel, you're right in your analysis.
Okay, that's good
But I
enough.
think that the Warriors were right in their judgment. The reason that whole beef started, in my mind, Steph Curry was not there, he was not present. I do not think it would have happened if Steph Curry was present. I think the Warriors adequately and accurately knew who is the glue on this team, who is the most important person on this team, who actually does contribute to the most points, not just scores the most points, that's Kevin Durant, who contributes to the most points on this team, that is Steph Curry. So I think that Kevin Durant never got his rightful place exclusively on the throne, because I think within the locker room, the Warriors know who deserved the rightful place on the throne. Not necessarily by finals MVPs. That's Kevin Durant. Who was the best ISO one-on-one basketball player on the team? That's Kevin Durant. But I think the Warriors knew who was with us shooting in the gym. Who was with us before Steve Kerr? When it was Mark Jackson? Who helped build this thing up? Who actually won a finals in 2015 before KD? That was Steph Curry. Who was setting records before KD? That was Steph Curry. So I think KD never got his proper praise because he was never deserving of the praise he believed he thought he was deserving of exclusively. That praise always would have to be shared with Steph Curry because Steph Curry built it. KD, you came in and you lived in it and you made it better, but Steph Curry built it, and dare I say he helped build it from the ground up.
Oh, man. If there's ever a topic on this show I never want to leave, it's this topic. KD didn't get his props. That's what we basically said, and he deserved his props. And they all came out on record saying that KD was the best player. But I understand what you're saying in terms of them building it up to a certain place and KD just putting all the finishes on it. But, man, last time I checked, nobody came to no art class ever caring about the glue. They just care about the popsicle sticks and the art that's attached to it.